they talk about like ancestral connections and karma and ancestor and the lineage where we come from. So how important is that for us actually as we are, practicing Krishna consciousness? My son turned 25 yesterday, so of course I'll feel the string of lineage and ancestry, because he's
Hmm.
related to me, and there is these bonds we have with family, but then he's not practicing Krishna consciousness, nor does anybody in my family, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen, and that's not being pessimistic. It's just
Hmm.
factish.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, is there anything for us to learn about our stance with that? Because when I think about, oh, I'm, I'm not this body, then I'm also not this family. Or
Hmm.
is that too much renunciation? Yes, I think you probably get the idea of my question. You always do.
One thing that I really like so much in the teachings that were given is that there is no wrong answer, actually. There's simply gradation of truth, right? There's a gradation of truth. And so, yes, he's your family member. Yes, you have a karmic connection, but at the same time, from a higher angle of vision, he's you know, another Jiva soul wandering the universe, and you actually have nothing to do with each other, right? Like both of those things are true. And then how much do you apply which truth? That depends on your own level of realization. So if it's actually true for you that you really feel that, oh, he's very distant, very remote from me, has nothing to do with me, then you can apply that in your life because that's actually a reality for you. But if you try and apply that too much when you don't really have that level of realization, then that could cause too much resistance and disturbance within you. So I would say the key is to find that sweet spot where you're you're not too extreme either way. Um, but you're honoring that connection that you have and the relative connection, but not to the extent that you're damaging your spiritual growth. That would be my suggestion, you know. And you still, there's still some, I would say there's still some sort of, karmic debt there. You brought him into this world. Especially the bonds between a mother and their child. Like I've heard some crazy stuff, like there's parts of your DNA, or I can't remember exactly what it was, but like there's like physical parts of you that are in your child. Like there's this physical connection between a mother who's like born someone in their womb and their child. There's like a link there which does not compare with any other link in this world. So, that's not something that you can, it's easier for the child actually. It's easier for the child to, distance themselves from their parent, but it's very difficult for the mother. And that's the thing, right? You don't have to also, you don't have to. But if that relationship is not supporting your spiritual growth, then obviously you don't want to invest too much energy in it. So you want to keep some degree of healthy distance, um, but keep some level of connection. Keep some level of connection so that you can honor that karmic bond that is there. You can't deny it. Because if you try and to forcefully cut something out when you're not really ready for it, then it can have the opposite reaction. It can cause more disturbance in your life. So, natural natural, slow, steady progress. Like that's generally the line of advice that our gurus have given us. Like let the detachment naturally come. It doesn't have to be forced. And it's very, I always find it very interesting. We see in Mahaprabhu's in multiple cases in Mahaprabhu's Leela where he's giving that advice to his associates, like in the case of Raghunath Das Goswami, right, who wants to abandon his family, disconnect fully from his family. Then also in the case of Rup and Sanatan, Mahaprabhu gave similar advice, like slow and steady, you know, don't try and rush ahead. And ultimately later on, they did come to that point of being able to leave behind their family entanglement that was holding them back. But Mahaprabhu told them, don't rush into that, let it will come at the right time, right? So patience, that's one of the things. It really is. Patience, everything in its proper time. Rupa Goswami, he mentions that in his Upadeshamrita, right? In 6 nectar of instruction, 6 favorable qualities, right? One of them mentioned is patience, perseverance to go on, and it may be many lifetimes before we feel any result. So, but we go on, And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he mentioned that Saraswati Thakur, he used to say, water the root, right? Give your attention to watering the root, and the fruit will come automatically. Like you take care of the soil, you nourish the root, you water the root, and the fruit will come, the plant will grow, right? Like, because it is easy to become discouraged in our spiritual life when we feel there's a lack of progress, and we face, especially when you actually start making progress, right? Then things start to get messy because you're in the shower and everything's coming off, and you're like, oh my God, like I didn't know how dirty I was. It's like, Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, he gave that example when you're cleaning a room. Right. First you think, oh, just give it a quick sweep, right? It just looks like a quick job. Then you start sweeping, then you start finding all the corners and under the carpets, and then you're there all day, like, wow, I didn't realize how dirty the room was. So it can be really disheartening. It's like you lift up the lid, like, oh man, I didn't know what was there. I wish I hadn't done that. Lifted up. When I started, everything was great. In the beginning, when we start our spiritual practice, it can be like that. Oh, chant Hare Krishna, be happy. Wonderful, right? But once you actually start entering into the practice more deeply, then the cleansing starts, right? And then it can be, then that's the real fire, the real fire of our practice, a real battlefield, right? So, but that's when we have to like hang on, and I always remember this quote of Srila Gurudev: our only need is to tolerate the speed of our journey. Tolerate the speed of our journey. Like hold on, try and keep up with your own progress, and hold on and keep going. And sometimes we'll go through dark tunnels. You just have to keep going. Sometimes we're feeling the light, right? And sometimes we can feel like we're drowning, in an ocean of our own mundane attachments, mundane entanglements, karmic bondage. It can feel overwhelming at times. But we are always hopeful, and we are always we're always hopeful to receive the mercy of the Lord. We are beggars of mercy. We are beggars of mercy. So we're always hopeful to receive that mercy. That is our life. Prapana Jivanamrita is so helpful for us, for anyone who's, going deeper into the practice. Those prayers in Prapana Jivanamrita, they're so encouraging. So, it's like, oh, here I am, here I am. Beautiful prayers coming from the hearts of the surrendered souls and expressing all the challenges that we go through and also expressing the moments of joy. So very, very helpful text for us, Prapana Jivanamrita. What more can I say? And we're all in it together. That's another beautiful thing, right? To think of it. We're not alone. We're all going through various struggles in this path, because we're getting right to the root of our existence in this world. It's no superficial solution, right? As we're told in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, un tapatrai un mulanam, it mentions there, right? All the suffering of material existence is being the message, right, of Srimad Bhagavatam. It will take up from its very root our material existence in this world. So it's a deep cleanse, not a weekend's detox. It's a deep, deep cleanse of toxins that we've been accumulating for lifetimes. So we have, again, it goes back to that, patience. Be patient with ourselves. And just the fact that we're able to observe, right? Just the fact that we're able to see, all these things within ourselves, that's a very good sign. That's a very good thing. Means the dust on the mirror is starting to clear and we can start to see ourselves a little more. Right? Yeah. In Bhagavad Gita, there's that analogy given. It's a very nice analogy of different degrees of mundane conditioning, right? And there's conditioning that's compared to the embryo in the womb, right? Where the conditioning is like so thick, where there's no sense even of who you really are, right? And then there's conditioning that is compared to the dust, to a dust on a mirror, right? Where it's a little less. And then the lightest degree of conditioning is compared to smoke around a mirror, right? Where you're getting some, there's still smoke covering, but you can see the light through the smoke, right? And so, in our case, as we're going through this process of purification, then we'll have, more and more clarity, right? More and more clear vision of what our condition actually is, right? Because in the beginning, we don't even know that we're sick. It's like, if a very healthy person like drinks, say Coca-Cola, they'll feel sick right away. But if someone drinks Coca-Cola every day, they don't feel anything. They're fine. But then it'll hit them, when they're like 50 or 60, There's also that analogy given of a black spot on a white sheet, right? A black spot on a white sheet is very prominent, But if you have a gray sheet, a modeled sheet, then there'll be tons of spots. You don't notice anything, right? So in the same way as our own degree of purity starts to increase, then all of our weaknesses, they become more apparent. They're coming more to the surface, right? So we're coming to a more and more subtle plane of life. So, yeah, those are my thoughts. But yeah, there's this tendency that we have, like we see some issue within ourselves or in some connection we have with the environment, and we just want to like cut, right? There can be this kind of impatience, like I want to be free. I want to be free of all these attachments and this and this and this and that. But it's like it's okay, just sit with it. This is where I am. And remember, one thing we can remember, right, is ultimately what we really want and what the Lord wants from us is not perfection, but rather love, right? That's actually what this is about, right? Because otherwise, we can go practice hatha yoga or Kundalini yoga or whatever, right? If it's just about becoming, pure in the conventional sense, we can do a lot of, yogic practices and austerities and meditation to purify ourselves and come to the Atman to be perfect. But that's actually not what this is about. It's about developing love, right? It's about developing love and attachment for the Lord, Guru Gauranga Radha Krishna. That's ultimately what this is, right? That's what they want from us. So to have attachment and to have non-attachment from the highest perspective is actually the same. It's quite a revolutionary message, right? This is what Krishna is saying in at the end of Bhagavad Gita, and our Gurudev would quote in Tasmat Tvam Mudavochuja Chodanam Prati Chodanam. Bhagavad Gita is like giving one level of instruction, and then Bhagavatam is developing upon that. And so there are many verses in Bhagavad Gita where you can find like a connecting verse in Bhagavatam, which is on the same theme, but taking it a bit further. And so in Bhagavad Gita, we have that verse, right? Sarva dharmam prityaja mamekam sharanam vraja, right? Krishna saying, give up everything and come to me. And there are some verses in Srimad Bhagavatam which are elaborating further on that, right? And one of them is this in Revealed Truth, this book, there's a chapter where Gurudev is discussing, it's the two chapters on evolution and revolution, very wonderful chapters. It was a talk our Gurudev gave in Kolkata around 2008. He was preparing for it, like he was thinking about it, I heard, for a few days, But anyhow, then in Bhagavatam, in Krishna's instructions to Uddhava, right? He's elaborating further on this, and then this one verse where this is essentially what he's saying, like give up your good, like obviously give up your bad, but also give up your good, right? Give up your conceptions of morality and immorality, right? Give up your attachment, but also give up your non-attachment. Right? Give up your desire for wealth, but also give up your non-desire for wealth. Right? In other words, tendencies for both exploitation and renunciation, they're both useless, in front of Krishna, right? He's only interested in affection and natural love and affection for him and his devotees. So that's actually what we want our focus to be, right? To develop our attachment to Shravan Kirtan, right? Hearing, chanting, for Sadhu Sangha, for Harikatha, right? This is really what Krishna consciousness is about, and that's really why we're here, because that natural development, natural growth of the heart and love for the Lord. That's really what this is all about. So, and all these other things, they're in the background, they're in the background. And sometimes we have to take care of things in the background, we don't that what's that expression, toxic spirituality or toxic positivity, right? Like, we're not being asked to like forcefully, be more spiritual or be more Krishna conscious. We also need to be a little real about what our condition is, like if we need, so you in the beginning you were mentioning in regards to ancestral issues, right? That may be something we need to take care of. If it's just like if we break a bone, we go and see a doctor. If we have a mental condition, we see a psychologist or psychiatrist, right? If someone thinks they have some ancestral issues going on, which is really holding them back, then that could be cleared, I'm sure. So, these are things that we may take care of, but we just understand these are background issues. We take care of our bodies, but it's not that our whole life is about that. That it's like our Gurudev mentioned once, we eat to live. We don't live to eat. It was like such a simple line, but I thought, wow, like he's saying so much in that one sentence. We eat to live. We don't live to eat. Like that's actually so profound. Like that's the whole conception of yukta vairagya, like in a very sweet and simple phrase. You know. Um, we're engaging with the material environment, as we need to for the sake of our higher purpose. Well, it looks like somebody's having trouble getting in the room. Um, let's see. Oh, Scarlett can't get in. I don't know what happened. Oh, I don't know what happened. So, so yeah, you know. So yeah, sometimes we just have to be comfortable with our, material condition, just accept, right? Of course, it's kind of like, like a couple of months ago, I think I was talking about the difference between treating acute illness and chronic illness. And, it's very, very different. When you're treating a chronic condition, it's like it's a day by day process, right? It's not that, you can take your vitamin C and it's over, right? But it's like, no, every day for could be months, could be years for some conditions, right? You have to follow this regime and you can't expect to be totally healthy right away, right? It's like you just have to accept, yeah, I'm gonna feel crap today, but I'm being proactive about it. I'm taking my medicine, doing my exercises and whatever else, right? So it's like that. Yeah, I have material attachments, have material conceptions. I'm caught up and I'm drowning in an ocean of my own karma. But that's okay, you know. But what did I do for my spiritual life today? I chanted my japa, I read Sri Guru and His Grace. I joined a nice meeting or I went to a nice class. I listened to a nice talk, right? Whatever it is, right? Where it's like, yeah, as long as I'm still going on with the practice, as long as what the real key is, as long as we still have some desire in our heart, lolyam, right? We have some desire for sadhu sangha, for Vaishnav seva, for Hari Katha. We still have some attraction. to these things. If we're losing attraction to these things, then that's when we have to worry. But if we still have some eagerness, some hunger, right? That's the key, spiritual hunger. It's like, yeah, I'm a mess, I'm drowning, but I still have some spiritual hunger, then we're okay, you know. Because, it can be very tricky to assess our own progress, right? It's a difficult thing. And sometimes it's a case of getting worse before you get better, right? The purging process begins. So it can really feel like that at times, like wow, I've been practicing so many years and I'm worse, right? And then the other thing too is that, as your appreciation for what this is increases, then the horizon is extending in front of you, and you have, oh, here's Scarlett again trying to come in. Your understanding of the scope of what this is and where your place is within that reality, that all, like, your whole world's going to get bigger and bigger, and so you're correspondingly going to start to feel smaller, right? And so, in other words, the more you progress, the more insignificant you're actually going to feel, because you're appreciating how huge this is, right? And how high the real standard of devotion is, right? And how far we have to go. Our conception of all these things, when we first begin, it might be like, oh yeah, me and Krishna and Vrindavan. Some devotees who joined in the very early years, because Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, he was starting with persons who, really didn't know anything, and he was being very encouraging. And in some ways, he kept certain things more simple. And I heard from a few devotees who joined in that very early time that they had this, like, hearing from Srila Prabhupada. They had the idea that, one devotee told me, I thought within a few years I'll be like a cowherd boy, in Vrindavan. And someone else said something very, very similar. Oh, I thought I'd be a pure devotee, within a few years, like. But, it's only through, time and practice and association and continued hearing that their whole conception of the scope of what this is, it expanded, and they started to understand, oh, I'm a drop in the infinite. I'm really a drop in the infinite, and I've so far to go. Right? So as we mature, that's the word, right? As we mature in Krishna consciousness, the more we'll realize, how long the journey is. So, in other words, the more that we're actually making progress, we can feel that we're not making progress, right? So it's a tricky thing. It's a very, very tricky thing. So then what's the key if we still have some spiritual hunger, right? We can look at ourselves and say, oh, I'm a mess, but I still have some spiritual hunger. I'm okay. Don't worry. Don't worry. Continue, go on, go on. Yesterday we had our Japanese Bhagavad Gita meeting, and I was mentioning this, how and I was talking about this with, I think, Suvasini. Didi's not with us today, but I've discussed it with her before too, how, in Bhagavad Gita, if you look more closely at what's going on in this text, then it really becomes more clear. This is a loving conversation, right? That's going on between Krishna and his beloved devotee. It's remember Gita. Gita means song. It's just not a sermon. It's not like a thesis. It's not a theological dissertation. It's nothing like that. There are plenty of texts like that in the scriptures, but Bhagavad Gita, it's a song, Gita, song of God. And there's so much affection in there. Like when you start to look more closely at the text, especially if you know a few words in Sanskrit. I barely know much, but the little that I know, it helps, right, to like kind of uncover that. And and there are some places where Krishna is telling Arjuna repeatedly. There's one chapter I went through with Suvasini, and she pointed out it was like 4 or 5, I think 5 times. Maybe it was one of the early chapters, chapter 2 or 3, in the space of a few pages. Krishna is telling Arjuna repeatedly, "Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry." Like so much affection, so much affection is there. So there's so much hope, there's so much encouragement, there's so much love for us. And that's ultimately what this is all meant to be, right? It's about heart expansion, right? A growth in our, loving connection with the Lord and his devotees. That's ultimately what this is about. So they're not looking for perfection, right? They'll take care of that, right? That's the thing. We can't even purify ourselves anyway. That's on them. Right. So we are patiently waiting. We're going on with our practice, going on with our hearing, chanting, association, and so on. And whenever they like, they can clear everything for us, right? In Prapana Jivanamrita, there's that verse. Many devotees mention how much they like that verse where Krishna says, can he who can destroy so many calamities throughout the universe, right? He doesn't have the power to remove some little defects in his devotees. Oh, wow, you've had an earthquake, huh?
Just now, just a super light one, but yeah, it's bizarre because I remember we had like a bigger one while we were in a conversation. Now, when you were
Yeah.
talking, there's another earthquake because it initially feels like a Harley or a truck drives right by, but that's not the case. It just shakes, it's bizarre.
Was that the last earthquake when we were speaking?
Yeah, we had a bigger earthquake. This one was a pretty light one.
Okay.
Um, but
Okay.
I remember one time we were on a phone call, you and I, and it was a pretty big, it was a bigger and longer, a very long lasting earthquake. This one was just a few seconds, but
Okay.
it's just anyway.
So many natural disasters going on at the moment. My goodness. Well, I hope you're all safe.
Oh, it was a tiny one, and we get them. This is normal for here.
Okay.
Just when we were one time when we were talking, it was much more. It was a bigger one, and the longest I've ever experienced in my life. Like just
Oh,
kept going and
wow.
going. This one is like whoa, 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 and then that's it.
Okay. Okay. And we have a nice comment from Midoriya Leela in our chat here. Perfection in practice means consistent positive progress. It's a vector, not a location. It's pretty deep. Something to meditate on. Well, does anyone want to share any comments, thoughts, or another topic, discussion, or anything you want to share again, Gangalila?
Well, no, thank you for what you were saying, because I really watched myself with also understanding my, like, I have this love for my son, right? So it's his birthday yesterday, and we already knew today we meet up. But
Mm,
yesterday I kind of overdid it with messaging him and then calling, just like, wow, what an attachment I have to that. I must.
mm,
Yeah, so I had it was giving me a lot of ideas of how to practice love in practical ways, which I'm praying for Krishna's guidance, like, how does love in my life looks like, really. And then I have this romantic idea also, or like this attachment idea, like mother is sort of like an attachment kind of love, and
mm,
how I can transform that. So yeah, it was good to hear what
mm,
what you were saying, and to attach myself to love, and at the same time detached from what I think it is or how it looks like. It's a pretty interesting dance.
I think the most important thing we can do in our life is to go on with hearing, and exposing ourselves to the pure message of our divine guardians. And that will purify us, of whatever is wrong. It will naturally, we will be adjusted, naturally. So it's not something that we have to, artificially do, but it will it will naturally come. Everything will naturally come. So no need to worry. And karma yoga comes to help us sometimes, right? Doing our duty. Some things we may do in a spirit of duty. It is my duty, to support this person, take care of that person. I don't need to get so emotionally involved, but that in some cases, that can come to our aid. I'm giving my full heart to my guru and to the Vaishnavas. We can love everyone, but as you said, there are different types of love. We can love with some space, right? Some healthy space. And then there's love where we're actually investing our faith, right? Investing our real inner heart. That is something else that we will be very, very careful. Our Gurudev mentioned that once, give your respect to everyone, but who you will give your heart to, that you will be very, very careful about. I also remember sometimes it's very, very interesting. Some of you have probably heard of this lady, Brene Brown, I think her name is. I watched one, that's her name, yeah. A few years ago, I watched an interview with her, and she did, she has this whole thing about vulnerability, doesn't she? I think that there was some interview on that subject. But what was really interesting is she did this one study with interviewing persons who are considered generally, like, in their profession, like there's a lot of emphasis on empathy, like social workers or charity workers and so on. So she did this whole study, like so many hundred participants of persons who are considered to be, the most, empathetic. And one of the things that came out of this study was that the persons with the highest level of empathy, they were also people with who had the strongest boundaries in their relationships. Isn't that interesting? Even though they're so compassionate, loving, caring, they're giving their whole lives to help people. They're also very, very clear on what their personal boundaries were, right? And how much they're gonna let who into their inner space, like they were very clear on that. I thought that was so interesting. It's like, and I think of our Gurudev as well, Srila Govinda Maharaj, like, I don't know anyone who was more loving and more caring than him. And, he was giving his whole life for the service of his guru and for the souls of this world. But at the same time, he was very clear on, you don't approach me for nonsense, like he's not letting anyone waste his time, and like we're gonna talk about this and we're gonna do this and he was also highly focused and clear, about what our relationship is going to be based on, right? And if somebody needs to see a psychologist, he'll tell them to see a psychologist, right? If somebody needs to see a doctor, whatever it may be, right? He was also very clear about things like this, you know. So it's very, very interesting thing. Because in the name of being compassionate, we can get ourselves sucked into all kinds of situations, right? And you know, lose our energy and all kinds of things, right? So then we have to question what does real compassion look like? Does it mean I lose my own identity, right? I lose my own self, right? That I'm compromising my own purpose, you know, is that what compassion really means? You know? So these are all interesting things to think about. Anyway, well, does anyone else want to suggest another topic? We had a few others join. Oh, Soumya Shaman Vijay have just entered. Ramananda Prabhu joined us, and Tungarasa, Sulalita, Axel. Soumya Shaman Vijay have just entered as well. Welcome everyone. Dandavat. Getting ready for your Thursday program, huh?
Yes, Vishakadidi, we are, yes, yeah. And then we're getting ready for Kiltegan as well, festival,
Oh, that's
Suvasini Devi.
right.
That's starting tomorrow. So there's
That's right.
devotees from the UK and Madhusudan Maharaj, and then devotees from the UK, Chidandi Maharaj, and so many other, and Sachi Didi, yes, and Saraswati Didi, and yeah. So
Okay, wow,
a
that's
really nice
exciting
gathering.
news.
Yeah.
Jai, we'll wish you the best for a glorious festival.
Jai, Gurudev, Jai, thank you. You're keeping well yourself?
Yes, I'm doing okay. I'm on a pretty intense health program right now.
It looks it.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm good. Here in beautiful countryside, very natural environment. Good. We've had some forest fires, which has been quite exciting.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah. My God.
they came very close, but I packed a bag, you know, I was like getting ready to leave. But in the end, the wind took them in
Mm,
another direction. So we were
okay. Such mercy, Jai.
Mhm.
Jai. That's lovely.
Someone sent me, where's my phone? Someone sent me this beautiful line uh the other day. This lady Angel, she joined sometimes. And she said, let me read this. It was so beautiful what she said. Here she is. She says, I am blessed. Krishna always gives me a reason to cry in longing for him.
Mm,
Isn't that
that's
beautiful?
beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful, actually. Yes,
I'm
yeah.
blessed. Krishna always
Mm,
gives me a reason to cry in longing for him. I thought, oh my goodness, what a beautiful thing
mm.
to say, you know.
That's a really good reminder.
Yeah.
Mm,
So, you know, whatever challenges we face, we can channel our fear or whatever it is, you know,
mm.
channel it in this positive way for our spiritual connection.
Connection, yeah.
All right. Well, we just came to the end of one topic. Oh, and Dana's just joined us. Welcome, Dana. Anyone else want to suggest any other topic or share anything before we close for today? Majority Leela's back home now. You're in Iowa. Yeah.
I'm in Iowa. You want to hear a couple funny conversations I've had?
Sure.
So on Sunday at church, one of the parents of one of the kids that I work with there said to me, "So did you convert?" And I said, "Only a little." And he said, "Well, that's fine then."
That's
and then I one of the other parents said to me, um, said, how was it? You look refreshed. So was it good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it was great." And she's like, "Okay." And I'm like, they didn't want to let me come back. They were trying to figure out how to keep me from coming back. And, you know, how to convince me to stay. And she said, well, that's totally fair. Last night we agreed that if I lived close enough to go there for a week at a time, they would let me have a week every month to go be at the ashram.
Oh,
So like, and that's totally not doable. But if it were,
mm.
they would be happy to share. So I'm just kind of floored by the amount of support I'm getting.
Yeah, that's beautiful to hear that they're supporting that step you've taken. That's pretty amazing, actually. Beautiful. Mhm. Yes. Girtida, you've been very quiet. Anything you want to share? You want to bring up any topic or? Oh, you're muted. Let's unmute you.
I have unmuted myself.
Okay.
It's so deep and great. I think, all the titles of the books, The Golden Volcano, of Divine Love, it can meditate lifetime after lifetime on just the titles of the books. And I am stunned of the greatness of this whole thing. And I think Sambandha, knowing what is what, and Abhideya, the practice is difficult. It's very difficult to practice what you have learned. But I think I need life after life to let this sink in, because this is so deep and infinite, I think. But Sambandha, Abhideya is practice is very difficult. And the things you have noticed and talked about in the beginning about the mother and child, and the feelings of the mother and the feelings of the child, it's correct. I have experienced that the mother's feelings for the child is deeper than the child's feeling for the mother. So, it's a lot of thoughts and contemplation.
Yes.
But Chaitanya Charitamrita, is that Krishna's consciousness? Can we say that? I'm trying to be Krishna conscious, but Chaitanya Charitamrita is so high. So I wonder if that's too high for me, because that's Krishna's consciousness, and I try to be Krishna conscious, So that's the things I'm thinking of this time.
Well, you brought up some very deep points there, and very, very earnest and profound expressions. What can I say? I mean, if one can come to that sincere feeling that, Krishna consciousness is too high for me, I think that's a very good sign. I think that is the real feeling, that this is all too high for us, too advanced for us. But we've had the privilege of coming in contact with it. And again, we go on hearing, right? I also feel, I was thinking about this not too long ago. I'm not ready for Krishna consciousness. That it's very high. It's beyond any conception of this world, But at the same time, we've had the privilege of coming in connection with it, and our gurus are telling us this is for you. Like, even if you're not ready for it, you can begin practicing it. There's this one occasion, it was in Yeah, beautiful comment from Midori Leela here. That's the thing. It's so, Krishna is all attractive, right? It is all very attractive. So even if we're not worthy of it, we can't stop, right? But there was this interesting moment in the life pastimes of Srila Sridhar Maharaj when he was still in his university years and he was seeking, actually. This was a part of his Leela in this world. And he ultimately heard about Mahaprabhu and the teachings of Mahaprabhu, and he was very attracted to that. But he also understood that he needed a guru. And so he was searching. And then there was one friend who tried to bring him into his own organization. It might have been the Bharat Seva Ashram. One kind of religious slash charitable organization. And he wanted to what's the word? Recruit Srila Sridhar Maharaj into his mission. And he told Srila Sridhar Maharaj, you are right. The prema dharma, the divine love that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving, that is the highest. You are right. He said, I agree. But at the same time, it is so high that you cannot directly go to it. This man told Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And he said, first you should practice the renunciation of the Buddhists. Like first study Buddhism and cultivate your vairagya, your renunciation, indifference to the world, detachment. Then you can go to cultivation of knowledge that Shankaracharya is giving, Gyan. And then with that as your platform, as your foundation, then you can go to Chaitanya Dev's Prema Dharma, right? But if you go directly to that, you won't get a good result. So go in these stages. This is what he told Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, I can appreciate your point of view, but at the same time, he said, that's not what Mahaprabhu himself told us. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and Mahaprabhu's discussion with Ramananda Rai, it's actually a verse from Bhagavatam, but he's quoting it. Stane stito shuti gatam. Wherever you're situated, begin hearing. Doesn't matter what your situation is, circumstantially, ideologically, wherever you are, whatever your situation is, whatever your stage of realization is, whatever it is, as soon as you make contact, begin hearing at least. Sanesito shuti gatam tanuvan manobir. And according to your capacity, try to give yourself, mentally, verbally, physically. So this is the grace, that has been given to us. Even if you're not ready, understand that you're not ready. That's definitely a good thing. But go forward. Nevertheless, go forward. There's also in Chaitanya Charitamrita, when Rupa and Sanatan, they have their first meeting with Mahaprabhu, and there's this one line there where Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, they're saying, we are so unfit. We're not even worthy to be seen by you. Like we're not even fit to be to stand in front of you. Like that's our actual position. But at the same time, you are so irresistibly attractive, and we know how merciful you are. So we cannot help ourselves. We cannot help ourselves, but to come before you. We are irresistibly drawn to you, and we know you are so merciful. So, and we hear also of this one occasion somebody asked Shalish, because the thing is like that this is a natural response, like what you're expressing. This is a natural response of someone who actually understands something of what this is. Like if we actually understand how valuable, how high, how precious this is, we will feel, oh, I'm not ready for this, you know. Right. And so there is this one gentleman we hear, he expressed to Shalashita Maharaj, like, you know, this just doesn't make sense, you know, that Mahaprabhu is giving the highest thing to the lowest people. Like, how does this make sense? And Shalashita Maharaj said, in response, he said, should he give some stone chips? Should he give some stone chips, you know? But no, what he has, he's giving. That's all he has, you know? Like he only has gold, you know? He only has $100 bills, you know? Keep the change. I don't have any change. I'm like that's his program. Like he only has the highest thing. And so he's giving that. You know, he's not calculating, oh, you guys are this level, you deserve something less, but no, you know, and he's the most merciful, most magnanimous. So we can feel like that. Yeah, I'm not ready for this. But at the same time, my guru gave it to me and he told me to begin chanting. And he told me to go on with my life of hearing, chanting, sadhu sangha. So we're doing that. We're doing that on faith. And the thing is, like regardless of whether or not we get a result, just the fact that we get to hear about these things, right? Like just the fact we get to know that someone like Mahaprabhu exists, you know, that such a charming conception of divinity as Sri Sri Radha Krishna, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to know that such a reality is there. I mean, like, that's enough, actually, you know, like, and we get to chant their names, you know, like, that's enough, you know, like, yeah, maybe we won't get it. Like, let's say that we don't get it. So what, actually? Just the fact that we get to hear about this and we get to know about it, that is such a privilege. You know, that is such a privilege to know that such a plane of love and beauty exists, of such closeness with that divine embodiment of love and beauty. Know that such a plane as Vrindavan exists. How wonderful is that? There's a beautiful quote of Srila Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, where he says, you know, wherever we are in our mundane position, you know, that transcendental world is existing and is waiting for us, right? Whatever we're going through here, according to our karma, according to all of our, you know, some scars and, you know, there are 1,000,001 different permutations of the mundane condition, right? Billions of permutate. Well, there are like 8 billion people in the world today, something like that, right? And counting. So how many different permutations of the mundane condition are there? Right? There are 8 billion plus. Well, much, much more if we include, you know, animal life. You know, we're not the only species, right? Trillions and trillions. And that's only in this one universe. There are billions of universes. So how many different permutations of the mundane condition are going on now simultaneously? So many. And everyone has their own unique experience of different flavors of mundane conditioning. But above and beyond that, that transcendental world of divine play is going on. That is going on. Right. And we actually, you know, we do have the opportunity to enter that world. Right? We do have that. It is such a thing is possible. It is rare. Koti Shrapi Mahamune in the end of Brahma Samhita. you can count on the fingers of a hand, and how many rare souls can go to that plane, you know. So it is not an easy thing. And it's good that we appreciate that, right? It is not an easy thing. But it is possible. You know, it is possible. And again, just to be able to hear that, and as Midori Leela is saying, to get some touch of that in this world, right? Through the devotees in this world. That is already very, very, very wonderful thing. Very wonderful thing. And so we go on. Our Gurudev, I liked what he said once. He said, I'm trying to remember what the context was, that he was saying that, you know, he was talking along these lines, like, you know, the mercy that's coming from above. I think he was talking about specifically chanting of the holy name and what can come from that. And then at the end, he said, our Gurudev, he said, my Guru Maharaj told me this and I believe it. My Guru Maharaj told me this and I believe it. And I appreciate that so much, because that is my own feeling, you know. You know, I didn't learn about all this from, you know, reading a book, you know, but we learned about this from hearing from a pure Vaishnava, from Srila Govinda Maharaj. And he had hope. He had faith in us, right? He believed in us. So we also have to believe in ourselves and believe in what he has given us. Believe in the power of his mercy and his grace, and the grace that is coming from the upper world, right? That is, we can have confidence in that. We may not be able to have confidence in ourselves, right? But we can have confidence in the upper worlds. So we were mentioning Prabhupada Jivanamrita, that there's a beautiful verse. Actually, it's a companion verse to a verse in Prabhupada Jivanamrita. Nanda Maharaj, Krishna's father, beautiful, beautiful expression. He's saying, you know, wherever I am meant to wander in this world, according to my karma, according to the higher will, whatever I have to go through, wherever I have to wander, let it be. Let it be so. But my only prayer is that I can continue remembering Krishna, right? That I can grow in my attachment and my love for Krishna. So that is the purest prayer, right? That, you know, Mama Janmani Janmanishware, right? Mahaprabhu's praying in the Shikshashtakam. If I am meant to take birth again and again, let it be so. But, you know, ahaituki bhavad, Mama Janmani Janmanishware, bhavatad bhaktir haituki. My only prayer is that I have love for you. I can grow in my loving attachment for you, my Lord. Right? So that ultimately is the purest prayer that we are aspiring to hold in our hearts. That, you know, whatever circumstance we're in, you know, whether or not we become liberated, right, or whatever it is, you know, we want to grow in our attachment and our love for our Lord. That is our prayer. So one day, we pray, one day that type of love will come in our heart, some drop of that. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. All the assembled devotees, sincere seekers ki jai. Thank you all so much for your good association. Giving me the opportunity to go into all these topics. All glories to all the assembled devotees, sincere seekers. Jai Shri Guru Deva. Have a beautiful week ahead, and I'll see you next time.
Dandavas Vishaka Didi, Dandavas everybody.
Dhanyavad,
Thank you so much.
Ramananda Prabhu. Dhanyavad. Thank you all. Jai Gurudev.